And again, I'm not, it does start to sound like a Luddite rant, but I'm not a Luddite. I use these things all the time too. My question at the end of the day is, has it made us better people? Has it made us more civically minded?
A trip recently, what do I have? I have GPS on my phone,
Mm-hmm.
so I'm never lost. If I want to get a cup of coffee, I will Yelp
Google Maps, there you look, yeah.
and find it. If I want to get laid, I can get on Sniffies or
Mm-hmm.
Grindr and right there.
Yeah.
And I don't actually look anywhere, and I do a little bit, but I don't actually absorb it in a way that I will remember, because I don't have to remember it.
Right. You've outsourced that probably.
You really don't need to. You don't need to remember where you are anymore. So
Yeah.
your brain sort of forgets that, and is not picking up the details of time and place,
Mm-hmm.
which makes travel itself kind of pointless in a way. I mean, if you could just, as I say, do a VR thing and walk down, as I did the beach in Santa Monica last couple of weeks ago, you're not having the same experience as when you're walking. And there's this word you bring up a lot, which is serendipity, which of course is the one thing that the internet kind of minimizes. There used to be more of it.
Yes. In the early days, there was more.
Before
of
it was more algorithmically massaged, as it were. You could bump into a link somewhere that was not surprising.
Mm-hmm.
Those days are sort of over.
Mm-hmm.
But you can always bump into a stranger on a train or on the street or in the gym or something, and a whole new life can begin.
Well, the interesting thing, though, now, if you talk to young people in particular, they will find out that stranger on the train's name, Google them, and if they don't have a digital footprint and a digital profile that they can understand, that person is no longer someone they would trust or even try to get to know. So even the serendipitous interactions are algorithmically sort of bookmarked for a lot of people in terms of how they live their life. And the travel thing is interesting to me. I have a terrible sense of direction. I had to learn how to read a map as a kid. I still get lost all the time. And I tell a story in the book of getting lost when my sons were young and we were in Northern California, and I really was concerned that we would end up, abandoned in the mountains. We did find our way back, and I made them learn to read maps. But it did get me thinking that we really are screen-enabled, GPS-enabled tourists. Very few of us are travelers anymore, because travelers are open to danger, to risk, to experiences that might actually not all be positive. And we are now able, when we go to a new place, as you said, it can all be seamless. It can be frictionless, as Mark Zuckerberg says. The other thing that
when you do those things, when you go traveling, if you're in the old school travel, no one else may know about it.
Exactly. It's private.
You go have a nice, beautiful little dinner in a little, I don't know, you find a little cafe somewhere in some back street in some Italian town, and it's quite lovely, and you have maybe you have a book to read, and you finish, and you go home, and you go to bed, and that's been a lovely evening. But now, if you hadn't put that on Instagram, it really wouldn't have happened.
Right.
And not only that, but you may actually seek a restaurant in order to put it on Instagram. Right.
And the rest, yes.
Our entire life is beginning to be subtly shift away from serendipity and reality.
Well, and I think our technologists at Google when Eric Schmidt was at Google, he famously gave an interview where he said, well, we can manufacture serendipity. I'm like, that is an oxymoronic phrase. No, you cannot. Just like, even though we now call internet browsers, that is not the same as a human browsing the stacks of a library or a bookstore. Browsing is something that is, again, open to opportunity, serendipity, and risk. And we are very risk averse, and we like things on demand. And we are, again, we're starting to conform to what the machine promised us, rather than making the machines work for the quirkier, better side of our human nature.
Well, as with browsing, so with cruising.
Yes.
The other day, I rented through a streamer. That's how you do it these days. Cruising, that movie, that really bad movie from 1980 by Bill Friedkin. But
very 80s movie, though.
Yeah, it's a fascinating movie. But what was amazing about it for me was, even though it was a crappy movie, it definitely showed, in a way that I haven't seen in a long time, the kind of underground leather bar scene that used to operate on the Lower West Side, West Side Highway in New York City, which I caught the very dregs of before AIDS came in to usher everything away. And you look at this bar and these guys in it, and everything is the eyes are everywhere, bodies are everywhere. Cruising is happening in this extraordinarily strange way. You don't know very much about the person you're hooking up with or whatever. But there are no bars like that anymore, barely any bars like that anymore. When you go to bars, people are often on their phones as well as standing there. The way the apps have removed any mystery
or flirtation,
well,
or
no,
seduction.
You can flirt on the apps.
But it's all via text.
You can throw a little Valentine in their direction, a little plug.
But how the eyes, if you talk about you're at a bar, you're there to meet people, the way, just the absolute symphony of movement, eye contact, no eye contact, the unspoken signals that allow for people to experiment with desire, with likability, with risk. These are important human experiences that I think we have flattened, homogenized, turned into algorithmic fuel for dating websites.